Hey everyone, this is Narendra and you're watching to my channel BioGuru. In this video, we are going to learn about dark reaction, that is also called as Blackman reaction, or it is also known as biosynthetic phase. This dark reaction takes place in the stroma of chloroplast. And requirement for dark reaction are carbon dioxide, water and products of light reaction, that is ATP and NADPH. Now, if you want to understand what is light reaction, see this dark reaction what we are going to learn in this video is actually the continuation from the light reaction, and this light reaction I have covered in my previous video. Go through that video, understand that and come back to this video, or else you can continue this video also. Okay, here what does it require? It requires carbon dioxide, water, products of light reaction, those are ATP and NADPH. So here dark reaction can be seen in two cycles. It can be studied under two cycles, that is C3 cycle and C4 cycle, right? Because some plants they show dark reaction in some other cyclical reaction, that is we call it as a C3 cycle, and some plants they show in other form, so we call it as a C4 cycle. So here majority of the plants they perform C3 cycle, that is 97% of plants, whereas some of the plants they have adopted the different cycle, that is C4 cycle, that is 3% of the plants they have adapted to the C4 cycle, and why they have adapted to C4 cycle that we'll understand afterwards. So no matter what, whether it is C4 or C3, all plants they show C3 cycle. So in all photosynthetic plants C3 cycle is common. Some of the plants they show some different cycle which is associated with the C3 cycle. So we'll understand that one. Okay, now let us study C3 cycle, which is also known as Calvin cycle. So here, as I already told you, C3 cycle is seen in all photosynthetic plants. Here we'll take example Helianthus, that is sunflower. So we can study this C3 cycle under three stages, that is carboxylation, reduction, then regeneration. What are those stages? Carboxylation, reduction, regeneration. Here we'll understand all these three stages. Here the first compound, what is this? Ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, in short RUBP, which is 5-carbon compound. This is going to become the primary acceptor of carbon dioxide. So this compound RUBP, ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, is going to combine with the carbon dioxide to form a stable intermediate compound, that is 3-phosphoglycerate, in short 3-PGA. Here the two molecules of 3-phosphoglycerate compound is formed, and this compound is 3-carbon compound. Now this whole reaction, that is carboxylation reaction, is carried out by enzyme, that is ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase, in short Rubisco. Rubisco is the important enzyme over here which catalyzes the carboxylation, where it joins carbon dioxide to the 5-carbon compound, that is ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, in order to form two molecules of stable 3-phosphoglycerate, right? So here the first stable compound which is formed over here is a 3-carbon compound. Hence this cycle is known as C3 cycle. Why it is called as C3 cycle? It is because After carboxylation, the first stable compound which is formed here is 3-carbon compound, that is 3-phosphoglycerate. Hence the cycle name C3 cycle. Clear? Okay. Afterwards, after forming the first stable compound, and this compound, how many compounds are produced over here? How many molecules? 2 molecules, right? So further this undergo a reduction. So the next step is reduction. During the reduction, 2 ATP. Why 2 ATP? Because for each molecule of 3-phosphoglycerate, 1 ATP is utilized. Here 2 molecules are generated. So here 2 ATPs are required. In which step? During reduction. Along with that, 2 NADPH. Now, from where these ATP and NADPH are coming? They are coming from light reaction. Right? So here in this step, the product of light reaction are utilized. This reduction step involves a series of reaction which forms sugar, that is glucose. Afterwards, after the reduction steps, there is a regeneration of RUBP, that is ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate. During regeneration of RUBP, once again 1 ATP molecule is utilized. Now, you have to count how many ATP are utilized and how many NADPH are utilized. Clear? And how many carbon dioxide. So here, in order to form glucose, that is sugar, we know that glucose is a hexose, means it is 6-carbon compound. So in order to produce one glucose molecule, 6 carbon dioxide need to be fixed. That means this cycle has to be repeated 6 times. That we will see. As I already told you, for the formation of one molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide need to be fixed because glucose is 6-carbon compound. So what carbons are present in glucose? They are coming from carbon dioxide. So 6-carbon compound requires 6 carbon dioxide. So for the formation of one molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide need to be fixed. Hence, 6 cycles are required. So what cycle you are seeing here? It should be repeated 6 times in order to generate one molecule of glucose. And later on it will be converted into sucrose and it is stored in the form of starch, which is polymer of glucose. Here, ATP required. How many ATPs are required in order to form or in order to synthesize one glucose molecule? Here, for fixing one molecule of carbon dioxide, 3 ATP are utilized. Where 3 ATP are utilized? 2 for reduction. Here, in reduction step, 2 ATPs are utilized. Then 1 ATP for regeneration. So here from triose phosphate, ribulose bisphosphate is generated. So during this regeneration, one more ATP is utilized. So total how many ATPs are utilized for fixing one molecule of carbon dioxide? Yes, it is 3. 2 ATP here in reduction and 1 ATP here in regeneration for one carbon dioxide fixation. So for fixing 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, why we need to fix 6 carbon dioxide? It is because in order to synthesize one molecule of glucose, so we are calculating how many ATPs as well as NADP. Here ATP we are calculating for synthesizing one glucose molecule. Here for fixing 6 molecule of carbon dioxide, we can calculate like this. 3. Why 3? It is because for one molecule, 3 ATPs. For one carbon dioxide, 3 ATPs are utilized. For 6 molecule, 6 into 3, that is 18 ATPs are utilized. So in order to form one molecule of glucose, 18 ATPs are utilized. Now how many NADPH utilized? Can you calculate? Anyhow, let's see. Here NADPH required for fixing one molecule of carbon dioxide. How many NADPH required? Here only 2 during reduction stage. Next, for fixing 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, why we need 6 carbon dioxide over here? To form one glucose molecule. So 6 times it has to repeat it. So 2 into 6, 2 why? It is because 2 NADPH is utilized over here. So 6 times 2 into 6 will become 12 NADPH. Thus, the synthesis of one molecule of glucose require 18 ATP and 12 NADPH. Please remember this. It is very important. So question may come like, how many ATPs and NADPH are utilized in order to synthesize only one molecule of glucose in Kelvin cycle or C3 cycle? So your answer should be, to synthesize one molecule of glucose, it requires 18 ATP and 12 NADPH. Is that clear? Okay, let us move to the next topic. Now let us have a look at the C4 cycle, which is also known as Hatch and Slack pathway. Here, this cycle occurs in plants like maize, sugarcane, etc. The plants which are adapted to dry tropical regions shows this cycle, that is C4 cycle. Right? So the leaves of C4 plants have Kranz anatomy. Now here the term C4 plants. Why these plants are called as C4 plants? It is because they show a specialized cycle, that is C4 cycle, for dark reaction. Hence, such plants are called as C4 plants. In order to show this type of cycle, they should have a special adaptation and special anatomy. So that anatomy is called as Kranz anatomy, that makes possible this cycle, C4 cycle. So let's study about the Kranz anatomy before studying C4 cycle, so that we can understand in a better way. So here when we take the cross section of leaf, you will see here the upper epidermis and this one is a lower epidermis. Between the upper epidermis and lower epidermis, mesophyll cells are there. So here vascular bundle is present. Vascular bundle means here xylem and phloem. Surrounding to that is there are cells called bundle sheath cells. Right? So these cells are special over here. They are large and they are having thick cell wall that makes impermeable to the gaseous exchange, and they have got specialized chloroplast and they are tightly arranged without intercellular space. Right? Now the C4 cycle is occurring between two cells, that is mesophyll cells and bundle sheath cells. Right? So we'll study that one. So here this is a diagrammatic representation of mesophyll cell and this one is a bundle sheath cell. So overall this dark reaction is going to take place in the chloroplast, that is in stroma. So here the mesophyll cells chloroplast it is, right? And this one is bundle sheath cells chloroplast. So between these two. So here in case of mesophyll chloroplast, C4 cycle is going to occur. Whereas in case of bundle sheath cell, C3 cycle is going to occur. Here one thing you can notice, no matter what, whether it is C3 plants or C4 plants, C3 cycle is common in all plants. right? So here there is a special adaptation in some plants like maize and sugarcane, where we see another cycle which is associated with the C3 cycle, C4 cycle. Where it is occurring? It is occurring in mesophyll chloroplast. Okay, now let us see. So here the carbon dioxide fixation is going to occur in C4 cycle, right? Now, if you remember the Calvin cycle, there the primary acceptor is ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, where that is going to accept or combine with the carbon dioxide. But here in mesophyll chloroplast of C4 plants, the primary acceptor is phosphoenol pyruvic acid, in short PEP, which is 3-carbon compound, right? What is this? This is primary acceptor of what? Of carbon dioxide. What is that compound? Phosphoenol pyruvic acid, in short PEP, which is 3-carbon compound. Here I have mentioned 3C. 3C means here 3-carbon compound. So this is going to combine with carbon dioxide in order to form C4 acid, compound with 4 carbon, that is oxaloacetic acid. And after carboxylation here, addition of carbon dioxide, and who is going to combine with the carbon dioxide? Phosphoenol pyruvic acid, which is 3-carbon compound. So if you add one more carbon to this compound, so it is going to form 4-carbon compound, which is the acid, that is oxaloacetic acid, and it is the first stable compound after carboxylation. Because of this reason, this cycle is called as C4 cycle. Why it is called as C4 cycle? It is because the first stable compound after carboxylation, oxaloacetic acid, is formed, which is 4-carbon compound. Next, oxaloacetic acid, which is formed over here from the phosphoenol pyruvic acid after carboxylation. This reaction is catalyzed by an enzyme that is called as PEP carboxylase, or it is also known as pepcase, right? So here, after formation of oxaloacetic acid, it gets converted into other 4-carbon acids, that is aspartic acid and malic acid. So these acids, they get transported into the bundle sheath cell chloroplast. So here the malic acid, which is formed from the oxaloacetic acid, is transported to the bundle sheath cell chloroplast, right? Which is a 4-carbon compound. Here malic acid will get converted into pyruvic acid. You can notice here number of carbon. Here the malic acid is 4-carbon compound, which get converted into pyruvic acid, which is 3-carbon compound. Now the question is, where is another carbon? So here another carbon is removed in the form of carbon dioxide. So this step will become decarboxylation. So malic acid, which is a 4-carbon compound, undergo decarboxylation in bundle sheath cell chloroplast and get converted into 3-carbon compound, that is pyruvic acid. So here the carbon dioxide is released in the bundle sheath cell. The gaseous exchange is taking place over here in the mesophyll chloroplast. So from here it has to transported in the form of C4 acid, that is malic acid. Now what is going to happen with this carbon dioxide? As usual, it undergoes further into the Calvin cycle in order to produce sugar, that is C3 cycle. Clear? So here pyruvic acid, which is formed after the decarboxylation, is once again transported back to the mesophyll chloroplast. This pyruvic acid, which is formed after decarboxylation, is transported to the mesophyll, where it gets converted into phosphoenol pyruvic acid by the utilization of ATP. So this is what all about the C4 cycle. Now let us study about the photorespiration, which is also known as C2 pathway, which is observed by Deckel in 1955. Right? So this photorespiration occurred during high temperature and high O2 concentration. So when this photorespiration is going to occur? During high temperature and high O2 concentration. And in this pathway, in this reaction, there is no formation of ATP or NADPH. Till now we have seen that in light reaction, ATPs are produced, NADPH are produced, but they are utilized in C4 cycle in order to produce carbohydrate, right? So here there is no formation of ATP or NADPH, but still the reaction is taking place, right? So here there is a utilization of ATP with the release of carbon dioxide. What do you think? What is going to happen in the photorespiration? Exactly the opposite of light reaction. Here there is no formation of ATP or NADPH, but there is a utilization of ATP, and here there is a release of carbon dioxide. Here the oxygen is not released. As we have seen in case of light reaction, oxygen is released after the photolysis. But here in C2 pathway, first of all, there is no formation of ATP or NADPH. And in that there is a utilization of ATP with the release of carbon dioxide, right? So because of this C2 pathway or photorespiration is considered as a wasteful process in C3 plants, right? So this C2 pathway is mainly going to occur in C3 plants and not in C4 plants, right? Okay, now in this diagram, let us understand the C2 pathway. So to begin with, if you remember the Kelvin cycle, where RuBp is going to combine with carbon dioxide there in Kelvin cycle. This is C2 pathway, photorespiration. If you remember that one, where RuBp, ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate, is going to combine with carbon dioxide and getting converted into 3-PGA, 3-phosphoglycerate. But here RuBp is going to combine with the oxygen. Exactly opposite is going to happen over here. RuBp is going to combine with oxygen instead of carbon dioxide. So here RuBp, after combining with the oxygen, it is going to produce phosphoglycerate as well as 2-carbon compound phosphoglycolate. And this reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme Rubisco. Yes, you heard right. Rubisco. Rubisco can bind with both oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. This enzyme play a very important role in Kelvin cycle. Kelvin cycle, we have seen the first step during carboxylation. RuBp combined with the carbon dioxide to form 3-phosphoglycerate. So that reaction was catalyzed by Rubisco. Same enzyme is catalyzing this reaction where RuBp is going to combine with oxygen instead of carbon dioxide. The name of this enzyme is ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. That means it can combine to both oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. One molecule at a time, means it can combine either oxygen or carbon dioxide. That I will tell you when it is going to happen. So now in photorespiration, oxygen is combined with the RuBp catalyzed by Rubisco. So here 2-carbon compound phosphoglycolate is produced. So because of this first compound, 2-carbon compound, this photorespiration is also known as C2 pathway. Now this is transported to the peroxisome and mitochondria where oxygen is utilized and carbon dioxide is released, and this cycle is going to take place between chloroplast, peroxisome and mitochondria. So here what you have to observe over here is, for C2 pathway to take place, there involves 3 cell organelle, that is chloroplast, peroxisome, mitochondria. So between these 3 cells, all this reaction is taking place cyclically, and carbon dioxide is released, which is completely a wasteful process. Let's talk about Rubisco. Rubisco, ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. This enzyme name is very important. It can be R for 1 mass. Rubisco is said to be the most abundant enzyme in the world. Yes, most abundant enzyme in the world, as well as the protein in the world. In case of plants, do you know the most abundant protein in animal? If you know, write down in the comment box. Now, it can bind to both carbon dioxide as well as oxygen. As I already told you, Rubisco can bind with oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. So if you remember the Kelvin cycle, there the Rubisco is binding with the carbon dioxide, but here in photorespiration it is binding with oxygen. The binding to the enzyme is determined by the relative concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Here the Rubisco, we know that it can bind with carbon dioxide as well as oxygen. If there is a high concentration, relatively high concentration of oxygen, then it binds with the oxygen molecule. If the relative concentration of carbon dioxide is more, then it binds with the carbon dioxide, right? But still its active site can bind with both oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. Even though it is having more affinity towards the carbon dioxide, it can also bind with the oxygen. It is because that binding is determined by the relative concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So which concentration, which molecule concentration is more, to that molecule it is going to bind. Now the question is, do C4 plants have better yield than C3 plants? The question is yes. Now what are those reasons? Let us see. In C4 plants, photorespiration does not occur. The photorespiration takes place only in C3 plants, whereas in C4 plant, photorespiration, which is considered as a wasteful process, is absent in C4 plants. So because of that, C4 plants have better yield than C3 plants. Why is going to happen like that? C4 plants have mechanism to increase the carbon dioxide to the active site of Rubisco. We have studied this C4 cycle, right? So here in mesophyll cells, there is the absence of Rubisco enzyme. So hence there is no question of binding of oxygen with the Rubisco. And Rubisco is present only in the bundle sheath cell, and we know that bundle sheath cells, their cell wall is impermeable to the gaseous exchange, right? So here oxygen carbon dioxide exchange is not going to take place across the bundle sheath cells cell wall. So this is the mechanism. C4 acids are broken into the bundle sheath cells to release carbon dioxide. So when these cells are having impermeable to the gaseous exchange, then how come carbon dioxide is transported to these cells? It is in the form of C4 acids, which is produced in the mesophyll cells by the enzyme PEP carboxylase, right? So after formation of C4 acid, this is broken down into pyruvic acid by the release of carbon dioxide. So here in bundle sheath cell, Rubisco is present, whereas it is absent in mesophyll cells. So because of that, C2 pathway, that is photorespiration, is absent in case of C4 plants, and because of this reason, where the Rubisco is always provided with the carbon dioxide, so hence obviously there is a better yield than the C3 plants. So these are the reason why C4 plants have better yield than the C3 plants. Moving to the next one. Factor affecting the rate of photosynthesis. You know what? Photosynthesis is depending on many factors. So what are those? Let us see. Light, CO2 concentration, temperature, as well as water. Photosynthesis depending on these many factors, right? So here, limiting factor, the factor which directly affect the process if its quantity is changed. As I already told you, photosynthesis is depending on all these factors: light, carbon dioxide, temperature, and water. If they are provided in equal amount, if optimum light, carbon dioxide, temperature, and water is present, then photosynthesis is going to happen normally. If you are providing light, carbon dioxide, temperature correctly but not water, then photosynthesis is going to affect. If you are providing water, temperature, as well as carbon dioxide sufficiently, but if you are not providing light, then photosynthesis is going to affect. So the factor which directly affect the process, here the factor which directly affect the process, if its quantity is changed, if any one of the factor quantity is changed, then the photosynthesis is affected. The factor is called as limiting factor. So what is limiting factor? Factor which directly affect the process if its quantity is changed, right? So here, this law of limiting factor was given by Blackman in the year 1905. So this limiting factor is also called as the law of limiting factor or Blackman's law of limiting factor. Clear? So let us understand one by one. First one, light. So here the incident light is directly proportional to the carbon dioxide fixation rate. But at higher light intensities, the rate does not increase further as other factors become limiting. Here through this graph we can understand the factor, that is light, how it is going to affect the rate of photosynthesis. So here along the x-axis light intensity, along the y-axis rate of photosynthesis. So here as we go on increasing the intensity of the light, the rate of photosynthesis is also increasing, right? So the point will come where the photosynthesis is maximum. So after that point, if you go on increasing the light intensity, there is no increase in the rate of photosynthesis. Why? Because at this point, this D point is representing the point where the rate of photosynthesis is maximum and becomes constant. Beyond this point, if you increase the light intensity, the other factors are going to become limited. Other factors like carbon dioxide concentration, temperature, as well as water. Beyond a point, if incident light is increased, then it leads to decrease in the photosynthesis due to breakdown of chlorophyll and finally death of cell. This phenomena is called as solarization. Here, the light is rarely a limiting factor. As I already told you, beyond a point, if incident light is increased, then it leads to the decrease in photosynthesis due to breakdown of chlorophyll. That is called as solarization. Please note it down. It is very important for 1 marks. Moving to the next factor, that is carbon dioxide concentration. Carbon dioxide concentration is considered as major limiting factor. Usually carbon dioxide is low in atmosphere, that is 0.03 to 0.04 percentage. Up to 0.05% there is increase in the rate of carbon dioxide fixation. Beyond 0.05% it shows damaging effect. Moving to the next factor, that is temperature. Dark reactions are more sensitive to an increase in the temperature. C4 plants respond more to an increase in temperature as compared to C3 plants. Adaptation according to the habitat also affects temperature optima. Tropical plants have higher temperature optima compared to the temperate. So the next factor is water. Water stress causes stomata to close and hence less carbon dioxide is available. The opening and closing of stomata is depending on the water. It occurs due to the osmosis and all that we'll study if possible in our coming videos. So here overall the water stress, if water is not present, water stress causes stomata to close and hence less carbon dioxide is available. When the stomatas are closed, obviously there is no the exchange of gases is going to take place. If they are open only, the gases exchange is going to take place, hence photosynthesis happens. Water stress causes the leaves to wilt, thereby reducing their surface area and metabolic activity as well. With this, chapter is completed. Hope you found this video helpful. If so, hit like button, share this video with your friends, classmate, if your teacher, share this video with your colleagues. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing and also press that bell icon so that you will receive notification whenever I upload a new video. I will see you in my next video. Till then, take care, be safe, wear mask, and also if you are eligible, take vaccination. Get vaccinated.